Welcome to Vitalityville, where natural health is home.
My name is Matthew James. I almost died when I was 4 years old, sitting in a crowded kindergarten classroom. My throat closed over from eating contaminated food. This was my first anaphylactic reaction. I developed severe atopic dermatitis all over my body, and I suffered horribly with it for decades. However, after years of researching natural health, I finally did what no medical doctor could do. I overcame my condition. Many times, I was told that my condition was all in my head, and that all I needed to do was take a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, or an SSRI, like Prozac, to take my mind off of the chronic pain. In other words, since my medical specialist doctors believed that my condition was permanent and at best could only be managed, taking a pharmaceutical to artificially create a type of psychological euphoria was my best option. For a while, I considered the idea until I began to research, and I soon discovered that one of the most potent and available side effects of antidepressant drugs is depression. I proceeded to research my other medications, starting with my bronchial inhaler, salbutamol, and to my surprise, I discovered that one of the side effects was asthma. Additionally, I found out that many of the creams that I was using on my skin could actually cause eczema. Needless to say, this information was a shocking revelation for me, that the medications I was consuming, the very ones that were supposed to be helping me, could actually be contributing or in fact causing my maladies. And suspiciously, there was no way to know if I had to be medicalized because of my condition, or rather, did I have my condition because I was being medicalized. In any case, from the CDC's own website, I learned, to my horror, that 24.3% of women aged 60 and over take antidepressant medication, and 13.2% of all Americans age 18 and over take SSRIs. And this number is steadily increasing. In 2009, for example, just above 10% of all American adults were on serotonin reuptake inhibitors. In the UK, 7.3 million people are on antidepressants, representing over 17% of the adult population. Iceland is the biggest consumer. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, Iceland consumed SSRIs at a rate of about 147.5 defined daily doses per 1,000 people. And, according to the American Psychological Association, between 1999 and 2014, there has been a 64% increase in the percentage of people using antidepressant medications. Sadly, I doubt that most of these souls fully understand the consequences of what they are doing and the side effects. For example, SSRIs and SNRIs can cause jaw spasm reversible syndrome or bruxism. But if such a condition develops while using antidepressant medication, buspirone or Buspar will likely be prescribed in conjunction with the SSRI to alleviate the side effect. However, Buspar is another anti-anxiety medication which can cause hallucinations, serotonin syndrome, seizures, and paresthesia, which is an abnormal sensation of the skin, causing pricking, burning, and numbness with no apparent cause. For symptoms of paresthesia, the steroid prednisone can be prescribed, or any one of a number of anticonvulsant medications, such as Gabatril. However, one of the primary side effects of prednisone is immunosuppression, bone death, muscle atrophy, anxiety, mania, psychosis, and depression. Side effects of Gabatril, commonly used to treat anxiety disorders and panic disorders, include dizziness, tremors, headaches, and ironically, depression. Most drugs have a similar hypertexting effect. They produce side effects that require treatment by other drugs, and eventually, those drugs produce the very condition or conditions that were being medicated in the first place. This overt pharmafog, in my opinion, is intentional and diabolical, and affects hundreds of millions of people around the globe every day, getting them on so many drugs that the line between side effect and ailment blurs. The more intense this blurring becomes, this pharmafog, the higher the profits go for top corporate patent holders. But it doesn't end there. In addition to depression, SSRIs can cause sexual dysfunction that, according to a June 2019 statement by the European Pharmacovigilance Risk Assessment Committee, can persist even after cessation of use. After years of serious investigation, the committee concluded that a, quote, warning label should be added to SSRI packaging regarding this risk. Several studies have suggested that SSRIs may adversely affect semen quality, cause priapism, and increase risk of gastrointestinal bleeding. Further to this, antidepressant medications have been shown to decrease bone mineral density, lending themselves to serious fractures. Discontinuation can lead to antidepressant discontinuation syndrome and cause vertigo, dizziness, and electric shock-like experiences in the brain, often described as brain zaps. It can also cause acute psychosis, where the individual cannot distinguish between what is real and what is not. In a 2009 advisory committee to the FDA, it was found that some SSRI manufacturers neglected to include important information about managing discontinuation syndrome in their packaging materials. Discontinuation syndrome can last from 1 week to 4 weeks to up to 1 year. And in a 2004 English study, it was found that up to 49% of people experience discontinuation syndrome. Interestingly, discontinuation syndrome used to be called withdrawal syndrome. However, in the late 1990s, due to extreme pressure from pharmaceutical corporations, the term was suddenly abandoned in the medical community. Furthermore, antidepressant medications can cause deadly serotonin syndrome, as well as increased suicidal tendencies. And shockingly, in 2004, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration ran clinical trials on children taking SSRI medications. They found that the risk of possible suicidal ideation and suicidal behavior increased by about 80%, while agitation and hostility increased by 130%. SSRIs are associated with an increased risk of spontaneous abortion of 1.7 times and up to 27% increased risk of birth defects. This information, and much more like it, has been purposefully hidden from the general public for decades. For example, a study examining publication of results from FDA-evaluated antidepressants concluded that those with favorable results were much more likely to be published than those with negative results. Furthermore, an investigation of 185 research papers condoning antidepressants found that 79% of them had authors affiliated in some way to pharmaceutical companies. Dr. David Healy has argued that warning signs were available for many years prior to regulatory authorities moving to put warnings on antidepressant labels that they might cause suicidal thoughts. But perhaps the most notorious side effect is the connection between antidepressants and increased violent tendencies. In fact, a quick internet search reveals that most mass shootings are associated with SSRI drug consumption. 39 mass shooters alone appear in a 2019 article by Jerome Lundone, including James Egan Holmes, also known as the Batman movie killer, who in July 2012 killed 12 people and injured 70 in an Aurora, Colorado movie theater. According to a psychiatrist who interviewed Holmes after his arrest, quote, "I believe if he hadn't taken Zoloft, he wouldn't have murdered anyone," unquote. There's also Eric Harris, who murdered 14 people at Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado in 1999. Harris had switched antidepressants from Zoloft to Luvox, which had been known to cause mania and attendant violence. The SSRI was found in his bloodstream during autopsy. To summarize, I realized that taking antidepressant medication was not for me, and I barely escaped being part of the millions upon millions of people who have fallen blindly into the big pharma profit loop and have unknowingly surrendered themselves to what can only be called a $28.6 billion a year cult of death. Sadly, SSRIs seem to rob people of the very psychological qualities necessary in order to truly liberate themselves from physiological suffering. However, as more and more people struggle to wake up, many catch glimpses of the despicable truth, and they turn to natural health and wellness alternatives for genuine and lasting solutions. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe to our channel. And for all of us here at Vitalityville, I'm Matthew James.
Thank you for listening to the Vitalityville podcast.